Aviation, by today's standards, is a aviation by today's standards is very safe, but planes are very, very sensitive, and the lightest thing will set them over the edge, such as in the case of Aeroperu Flight 03. In this incident, we have to go back to the morning of October the 2nd, 1996, where a Boeing 757-23 Alpha was performing a routine passenger service from Miami International Airport in Florida to Santiago, Chile, with two stopovers in Quito, Ecuador, and with two stopovers, one in Quito, Ecuador, and one in Lima, Peru. The accident occurred on the final leg between Lima and Santiago. The plane was, as I already mentioned, a Boeing 757-23 Alpha. It was delivered new to Peru on December 5th, 1992, so it was only 4 years old. Still relatively new. I do want to add that earlier the same year, in February, Bergen Air Flight 301 had crashed in the Atlantic. Coincidentally, the plane was also a Boeing 757. So people were still a little scared to fly in the Boeing 757 as a result. Okay, so from the plane had 180 passengers when it landed in Lima, but only 61 of them would be proceeding to Santiago. The the other 119 passengers deplaned. On board the flight deck was a captain with many years experience, more than 22,000 hours of flight time behind him. Captain Eric Schubert. He had about 22,000 flight hours behind him, including about 1,500 on the 757. And the first officer, I forgot his name. Him had a similar amount of experience, 7,000. He was experienced with about 8,000 hours, but only 719 of them in the Boeing 757. Now, before the plane took off, a layer of polish was applied to it. So to prevent any damage being caused to the the pitot tubes. These are very vital tubes that feed the planes in airspeed and altitude displays. These pitot tubes were covered so that the polish did not damage them. Remember this. So the plane pushed back. So after a while, the plane pushed back. So after a little time, the plane then pushed back. And at about plane pushed back from the gate with 61 passengers and 9 crew. The passenger list consisted of mainly holidaymakers heading to Santiago. So yeah, the plane was lightly filled by standards of aviation, with only 70 total people aboard. And especially if you consider the plane involved in a 757, a long, a medium to long haul airliner. So, yeah, this was wonderful. Okay, enough with the passenger list. Why am I yapping about it? The plane pushed back, and my screen froze. The plane taxied to the plane, and also I wanted to add something. The Aeroperu livery was not available at the time of recording this video in my flight simulator, so I'm actually just using a British Airways livery instead. Okay, to be fair, if you look at this and look at the actual plane's livery, you'll see there's not much difference. Just the tail is only one color. Okay, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, and not to mention the flight simulator I used is very limited. It only has select few airports for some reason, and one of these airports, and the airport I'm currently taking off from is not even Lima International Airport. It's Perth International. Hey, I'm literally just working with what I got here, okay? So don't judge me. If I had the funds, I would buy a proper flight simulator, like X-Plane or something like that. I don't know. Well, but that stuff costs 500 rupees. And that stuff is 500 rupees. You think I'd buy it? Well, you think it's my mom would let me have it? My dad would buy me the LNG with stuff like 500 rupees. Okay, whatever. So the plane at around 42 minutes after midnight, they lined up and took off from the runway in Lima, Peru. But immediately after, the pilots noticed something was amiss. They realized that the captain's side display was still showing the plane was at 40 knots and at 3 feet and was still on the ground. Um, Not at all where the plane actually was. And the first officer's display was showing the plane was at 150 knots at a height of about 1,500 feet. But so the pilots immediately noticed this disagreement in the flight control systems, but no one knew what to do about it. So the pilots just asked the air traffic controller about where they were like, yeah, hi, yeah, Tower Aeroperu 603 Heavy. Hey, what's our altitude? Good, and the controller responded that Aeroperu 603, you are at 2,000 feet. Then the pilots declared a pan, which is essentially an emergency, but not which is a distress call, but not an emergency. The pilots started to turn back to the airport, but the pilots did not know whether which altitude was right. Like the first officers, or was it the first officer's instruments that were right, or the was it the first officer's instruments or the captain's instruments? Which one was correct? In fact, no one knew because both instruments were showing wildly different readings, and the controller was telling something completely different. So this caused some serious spatial disorientation. Not to mention, the plane is currently over the Pacific Ocean, and at 1 a.m. in the morning. So the plane, in an attempt to turn back to the Lima airport, unfortunately did not make it. The plane, at around 1:30 a.m., with its right wing struck the ocean, struck the surface of the ocean, and quickly followed by a roll to the left before where the plane completely crashed, tragically taking the lives of all 70 people aboard. And remember I told you to remember and and remember when I told you the plane had been polished just before takeoff? Well, that had actually played a very major role in the accident. In fact, it mostly caused the accident. Basically, to prevent the pitot tubes getting damaged and sending erroneous data to the pilots, they covered it with masking tape. The only thing is, after the polish was applied, the pilots never took off. The ground crew never took the masking tape off. So, the very thing they intended to prevent, they caused the very thing they intended to prevent. The pitot tubes sending the flight crew erroneous data. And the thing is, this was an honest mistake. Like, I can completely understand this. It's hate. I don't blame them at all. Anyway, I hope you found this video informative, and if you do, stay tuned for my other videos. And if you do like this video, since I'm new, and if you do like this, please like and subscribe, okay? I need subscribers and views. I want to earn, please. Anyway, thank you all.